Today, I bring you a complete tutorial on InvestingPro, the investing subscription that provides us with a lot of information when investing and will teach you how you can view it specifically. First of all, once you enter the investing platform, you will go to the top right where there is a flag, and here you can directly change to the language you prefer. In this case, I will leave it in Spanish, but I will be telling you everything you see on the screen. However, if you want and find it more comfortable, you can change it to English depending on where you are, German, French, Italian. Well, you can change it to the language you desire. So let's start. First of all, here we have the platform. This is the link. Remember that this platform has a free version and a paid version. In the paid version, we get everything I'm going to show you in this video. In the free option, we have certain options, but not all of what I will be showing you today. So remember that right now, there is a discount code that I leave in the video description so that you can get this subscription at a discount. As I was saying, it is much cheaper. Let's start here. First at the top, we have a search bar. So here we can, for example, search for NVIDIA. And if this stock is listed on different exchanges around the world, it will show you the stock on this specific exchange. In this case, we are going to search for it directly on the Nasdaq. Let's enter here, and here the stock will appear, bringing us all this information that you see below. Initially, we have the stock information, which includes its present price, the daily variation it has experienced, indicating how much it has altered today, how much it has fluctuated, and within a 52-week range, what its price has been, as we observe here. Then the fair value, so we have the average, downside, risk, the split, market range, targets, experts, investment models, and as you can see over here, this is a pro option. So, well, here we already have different things to filter. Now, if we scroll down here, we see the company profile where it describes what this company is about. So in your case, you can go and specifically search for companies you might not know and want to learn about their business model. And well, here it describes it in a very specific way. Moreover, there's an aspect that I genuinely appreciate, and it is this section of the most recent report. You are aware that corporations regularly publish reports concerning their financial statements, and in this section, they furnish us with a straightforward summary of how that recent report was presented. It initially indicates that analysts anticipate an increase in sales for this year, with operations having a low price-to-earnings ratio in relation to short-term profit expansion. And as you can distinctly observe, favorable aspects are highlighted in green, whereas unfavorable ones are marked in red. Naturally, if you wish to verify the data presented here, you can click on it, and it will directly inform us of the source of this information, explaining why analysts foresee sales growth this year. And here, you will discover all the detailed information on why this is occurring. Here it provides a comparison with its peers, that is, with companies that have a model similar to NVIDIA and historical trends, and well, everything that supports this information that is appearing here. And obviously it helps a lot so that you can easily and simply obtain all this information without having to read the entire report. Here we have the price history over 1 month, 3 months, 1 year, 5 years, 10 years. And even later on, we will see something here called a chart gallery where we will see in greater detail what it means. Then a data explorer where we have different metrics, and you can edit this. You can choose which metrics you want, depending on which ones are more or less important to you. Then there are these peer signals that we see regarding the sector, so depending on the stock you are analyzing, the sector will provide different indicators. Here we have indicators by value, size, growth, and benefits. And in the news section, clearly the latest news related to the stock we are analyzing, in this case NVIDIA, is practically minute by minute, meaning the news is quite recent. And here, as we can see, there are some news items that are part of the Pro subscription, which allows you to view more advanced information in detail, we could say. Next, we look at the company's health. As noted, NVIDIA's financial health is assessed by ranking it against over 100 factors compared to firms in the information technology sector in developed markets. Against this sector and these factors, NVIDIA scores a 4, indicating it's doing well currently. Then we have pre-designed financial models that you can view in detail here. You simply click View, and all the specific data you can analyze to decide on investing in this stock will appear, including financial history, the balance sheet, and the cash flow it currently has. This is also provided year by year from January 2024 to January 2025 and so on. Here we have analyst notes for you to jot down things in case you find insights. You simply write down certain things you found during your analysis. For example, if I start analyzing this stock and I like it, I note that I will return in 10 days to see how the analysis I did is going, and I simply save it. For example, I write A, and the note appears, and I can delete it if I want. Now, let's move on to what I mentioned earlier, where in the graphs, it's not just the graph that appears here. We can go to where it says Graph Gallery and really start doing an in-depth analysis with all the graphs and details we have here. For example, we can add the par and then add the company, and it will project this metric according to what we want. For example, over 10 years. We can even add more companies. For instance, let's add one of the competitors and see a comparison between these two, how they have performed. And based on this, we can also make decisions. Obviously, we can take different indicators like revenue or gross profit and compare these two since they are clearly from the same sector. For some reason, literally, it's that because they are from the same sector, they have quite similar performance in some aspects. So, well, there we have this comparison. We can compare these two companies or even more. We can click here, assign a name, and save this graph for later analysis. Here, we can also change the currency in case we are investing in a market that is not specifically in US dollars, but in another currency. And we can start a new chart here and begin analyzing other stocks. And of course, it's not just the charts based on the most popular ones, but you can specifically go to dividend valuation data in case we want to build a dividend portfolio. We could base it on dividend growth and, well, we can eliminate the others to focus on just one of them, for example, this one. And we can look at it in case we are analyzing stocks that are paying dividends and are attractive for that reason. Subsequently, we possess categories such as risk evaluation, growth potentiality, operational effectiveness, fundamental examination, technical analysis utilizing moving averages, forecasting methodologies, and predictive analytics, among various others. So, well, it's up to you to come in here and create your own charts. Once we understand this, we'll go back to the beginning, and the start will always show you watch lists, which I'll teach you how they work later on. But in short, it's simply about adding the stocks you want here. For example, let's talk about this one again and click Save Changes. What it will do is that this list, as soon as I log into my account, will show me the stocks I have, so I don't have to search for them one by one. Instead, I can directly see what's happening with that stock at the moment. I have the option to add another one, so let's proceed to add this one over here and click on Save Changes. Once again, they appear here, so now I have these two. To access them conveniently, I can also have various indicators displaying how this stock is performing currently according to the ones I select. Additionally, we can evaluate this by risk, profitability, efficiency, forecasts, or the financial health of each of these stocks. Now let's move on to the next topic, which is investment ideas. And this is something that many people like, and it's just that meaning we can filter through different categories to find various strategies or investment ideas that we might not be considering. This is part of the Pro subscription, Sarashan. So let's say we select monthly performance. We're expecting, for example, a return of between more than 10% to 50%. So let's wait for these to load. Now, for a quarterly return, we can set it again to have a minimum of 0 to 50% return. The same for a year, let's set it from 10 to 50% and wait for it to load. And well, we can filter by the number of participants, meaning the number of holdings or stocks or assets within each of these investment ideas. The portfolio rotation, meaning how frequently these assets are changed. For example, here there are 30, but each day, for instance, 5 assets are changed, sold, and new ones are bought or sold, and no new ones are bought. So this is what we can look at here in percentage terms for certain companies. For example, let's see if any of these include NVIDIA in their strategy, and let's check. We wait for it to load, and indeed, some do include it. Then the type of investor it is, meaning whether it's a capital fund, an individual investor, and here we can see if it's an investment advisor, a bank, a stockbroker, and so on. Then in sector vision, depending on the sector we want, they will surely have technology, information, because these are high-risk ones we're choosing here. And well, once we've filtered and found what really interests us, We can, for example, go into this one with 13 assets, which are few, and it tells us here who this person or entity is that appears here. In this case, it operates as an investment advisor, and it shows the report period and the report date it has and what assets it has within its portfolio, in this case Palantir, Google, Nvidia, Miniso Holdings, and others like Robinhood Markets. It tells us what this portfolio is, and basically what you can do is click up here on the right where it says copy to watch list, click if you want to copy it, and return here to the watch list, and now it will appear here. So if you want to somehow copy this investment strategy or idea, you can track it here. For example, let's go to profitability and see how this investment idea is doing within this premium ideas option in InvestingPro. Well, let's proceed to the subsequent one, which is quite similar yet extends a bit further, and it's referred to as ProPix IA. What this does is furnish you with specific portfolios based on various factors, such as markets and focus. They provide you with a monthly portfolio and update it so that if you desire, you can invest in those stocks. For instance, let's select one, like this one that's outperforming the S&P 500. I shouldn't really disclose this because it's part of the paid version, but you can receive an update every month. For example, let's examine last month's. What they do is inform you on the first day of each month which stocks were incorporated into this portfolio and which were removed, as well as the performance of each stock in the portfolio at the time of sale. For instance, in this one, they lost 3.5% from the time they invested. In another, they gained 1.3%, here 4.7%, 6.8%, and they added these. That's why these here don't have any percentage, because they remain active in the portfolio. It's not until the next month that they inform you, look, these are the ones we altered, these were added, and these were removed, and this was the performance, and etc. Another aspect of the Pro report or Pro membership is that it provides this report here. So let's say they added this stock last month, you click where it says Pro report, and it gives you all the information on why they did it. They provide a summary of the most important indicators, a 5-year chart, and a summary of what this stock is about and why they believe it might grow, if added. But also, for those they remove, for example, this one from Pfizer, let's click on the Pro report and see, and it tells us the same thing. For example, this one was removed because it faces several notable challenges. The company is dealing with a decrease in revenues from COVID-19, with projections of a 25% drop in sales of one of its drugs by 2025. Additional headwinds include upcoming patent expirations, regulatory pressures, and intense market competition. The implementation of the Inflation Reduction Act is anticipated to adversely impact revenues by approximately $1 billion in the year 2025. Thus, as you can observe, they elucidate the reason for Pfizer's removal, and further below you will discover details that substantiate this summary. Here, they don't just tell you the reason, but they support the information with everything that appears here, so you can analyze it and see if what they're telling you actually makes sense or not. Based on that, you make the decision to invest. As I mentioned, this update is provided to you monthly, and you decide whether to add this stock to your portfolio or not. There are literally people who invest exactly in the stocks that appear here. And if they remove some stocks, they take them out. If they add new stocks, they include them, and so on. In each case, as I mentioned, there's a report explaining why it was removed or added with strategy details below. This sophisticated ProPix Top 20 strategy methodically examines S&P 500 financial information to determine the highest performing stocks on a monthly basis. This strategy focuses exclusively on the stocks listed in the SP, an index representing 500 of the largest US companies. Well, we already know that, but this is the strategy for this. However, if we want to look for another one, for example, as I mentioned, it's by market. So let's imagine you casually want to invest not in the United States, but in Germany, and it shows you a selection of stocks from Germany, and below it shows what they are doing. It thoroughly analyzes the dynamics of the German market, utilizing our AI's advanced algorithms to identify the top-performing stocks on a monthly basis. As I previously mentioned, this information should not be displayed since it is part of the subscription service. Each of you should log in individually, and if you wish to check specific selections, such as those from Canada, you will need to obtain the subscription and access the platform. Then we enter this filter section, which literally gives us a filtering option, so it's for when we want to find stocks or opportunities according to strategies that we have. So if we have strategies that we follow from a professional investor or that we have devised ourselves, then we base it on this. For example, we can base it on market capitalization, saying it must have more than $250 million or less than $250 million, and we can filter it by more criteria. We click on this plus, choose a metric like 5-year beta greater than, and we keep changing it. This way, we can find stocks under our strategy or a strategy we have found and want to test, as it really helps. Searching for this manually on some other platforms is terrible, and you have to spend a lot of time searching and searching. While here, we practically have all the markets available and we can filter them by metric according to what we desire. Then over here at the top right, we have a section in case we don't want to create our own filters but rather want strategies. For example, here we have rising stocks, stocks with consistent gains over 6 months. So we can choose this and it creates an automatic filter for us. And here it loads stocks that meet this strategy that appears here. So here we see some of them, and based on this we can filter to decide if we invest in them or not. We can also choose other types of strategies, for example dividends with strong yield from dividends and profits. So here we take these two things into account. Then we can move to the selection summary to view it in a simpler way, and we have these stocks over here. We also have the analysis option, so we simply click on it and it brings us the stocks again in a simpler and easier way to understand without so much data if we want it that way. And we can also save the filter we have created so that. This obviously updates over time because many of these are based on a specific time period. For example, this one for 52 weeks. So when 52 weeks pass or a new week starts, this will obviously change and the stocks might change and show us something completely different. Therefore, it is important to save it if we wish to do so. Then in the Data Explorer, it's really for investigating and analyzing stocks in depth. It's quite similar to when we search for a company here. We can do it by searching for a specific metric. For example, we can choose Nvidia again and search for it by a metric such as earnings per share. We can select it here and it provides us with detailed information on earnings per share. What I always like is the performance summary, as there's no need for us to specifically look for and analyze the entire financial statement. Instead, it directly provides us with performance information and a very detailed summary. If we want, we can later verify it with the data provided here in a very simple and easy to understand way. Now, we move on to the charts section, which, well, I actually showed you earlier how to search for a stock and filter it through all these types of charts to conduct a more in-depth analysis. Then in the saved work section, this is precisely where any filter or data explorer that we wish to thoroughly analyze at a later time will be displayed. Ultimately, another feature of the Pro subscriptions is that you have the capability to consult an artificial intelligence system that is grounded in all the comprehensive data and information that InvestingPro possesses. Here, you can request it to generate a dividend portfolio from the German market that has demonstrated significant growth over the past year. You are allotted a specific number of uses, in this scenario 500 per month, contingent upon the subscription you choose, but in my situation, my subscription permits 500. Thus, it informs you which stocks in the German market are worthwhile and exhibit substantial growth. You can evaluate the dividend growth and dividend yield within the German market. If desired, you can inquire about the United States, Italy, or any other market, and it will supply that information. This is contingent on the language you have configured. If you have another language set, you can access the information in English, German, or any language you prefer. This is the functionality of InvestingPro. These are all the features. I genuinely endeavor to make it as swift and straightforward as possible for comprehension, but evidently you need to enter and register as well. In fact, you can experiment with the free version and explore the options available. If you deem it essential to have a pro version, meaning the paid one, you simply acquire the subscription, and in this manner, you can utilize the platform more comprehensively. However, you can also utilize the free version. which also offers a wealth of valuable information and permits you to save information for future analysis. It's akin to a free subscription, so to speak, where you can save your own information as an investor. And as I mentioned, if you require more or wish to utilize Propix and delve a bit further, you can acquire the subscription. With that, I hope to see you soon. If you've made it this far in the video, please drop a small dollar emoji with wings in the comments. Until next time, goodbye.